All right, so the following conversation is with my man, Carter Teed, who has some insight into Star Wars and the Jungian model of the dark archetypes of the unconscious, and we relate it to Star Wars. So enjoy. I'm talking, when I called you, I was talking about, and I asked you a question about the Wrath and whether Wrath just in context of the Star Wars narrative, if it just stuck with the dark side, or was there a wrath within the Jedi, right?
Yeah,
All right, so give me your perspective, man.
there is. I mean, it's not the same wrath as you would see in the Sith and how they view things. The Jedi kind of have that same wrath, but just under different guise. Some of the big, like the three, like some of the biggest ones are the hypocrisy, the inaction when there's time for action, and the dogmatic views that the Jedi had, specifically like when I'm talking about like the prequel era, like the Clone Wars and all those.
Okay,
Um,
can you elaborate on those?
yeah, the hypocrisy side of things. I think it was in Attack of the Clones where Mace Windu specifically said, and this is how the Jedi are supposed to be, that they are keepers of the peace, not soldiers. But yet, when the war breaks out in Attack of the Clones, the Clone Wars, the Jedi essentially become the frontline generals of the war. They become the strategists. They become the military leaders of the clones. So they basically go against their entire mission statement there, where they are supposed to be maintainers of the peace, where they don't like conflict. They don't want to get involved in conflict. They're there to make sure things stay peaceful. But yet they're in this huge intergalactic war, fighting for a side, and essentially just going against everything that they're supposed to stand for.
Okay, so that all right, so that handles the the hypocrisy.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty hypocritical.
Very
Um,
much so. Now, the other two. What are the other two?
the inaction,
The inaction.
um,
Ooh, I love. I hate inaction, but I love inaction.
this kind of goes in hand with kind of like a sub claim, and that is and this is again referencing to the prequel movies in that era. This is towards like the political affiliations that Jedi have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, During this time, the Jedi Council and basically the Order in itself is heavily involved in the Galactic Senate. So basically, just the overall galactic politics of the war. When the Jedi religion, it's a religion, and it's not supposed to be involved in these kind of things, but for some reason or another, that the Jedi are specifically interacting and dealing with the politics of the galaxy as a whole. And so, it comes down to public perception a lot of the times when there's many instances of when the Jedi could have done something.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to look at some specific examples, but there are plenty of them where the Jedi are capable of doing something that would be, I guess, beneficial to their goals and ideals in which they want to maintain peace, and they see the Force as like this. It's not a weapon, it's a tool for good or something of that nature. But due to political affiliation or public perception of that move that they could make, that decision they can make, they align themselves with a certain political view, and due to that, they don't take action where they should or could have done, because they don't want to be under scrutiny, or they don't want to create political divide in a time when people are supposed to be unified against a common enemy. Um,
Okay.
so I think that's a pretty big inaction one, and that happens within their own borders too. Like there's an example from one of the TV shows, The Clone Wars, where um, one of their own Jedi is accused of treason, and essentially they have like their own trial and ways of dealing with that and doling out punishment. But it turned into a military operation essentially. So the Republic and the clone army got involved, and they are like, we have to have our own trial, so that this person faces justice for their actions. But the Jedi wanted to handle it within house and not dole it out to them to do their own trial. So in order to kind of save face in that sense, they basically just go against their tradition of, when in a situation like that, they would do it themselves. So they basically hand over that Jedi to the Republic for their own interrogation, their own trial and everything, just to basically save face and be like, well, this is just who we are, I guess. Yeah, I would say that's for inaction. And then the dogmatic views, basically the Jedi Order that you see in the prequels has been existing for 1,000 years. They say it themselves. And I guess throughout that time and throughout the complacency, because during that whole millennia, there's no Sith to oppose them at that time. So they basically become complacent. They become hypocritical. They think they're unstoppable. They're extremely arrogant. They say that in the movies too. They say a common flaw among more and more younger Jedi is their arrogance.
What episode?
I believe it was in episode 2, Attack of the Clones, when Anakin or Obi-Wan, Yoda, Mace Windu are kind of walking through the hall, and Obi-Wan's talking about Anakin and his kind of arrogance and his abilities have made him that way. And then Yoda brings up how, the younger generation, they're becoming more arrogant.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Yoda's, you say inaction. Mm-hmm. Yoda did not act. He rather reflected. So was his inaction really, what's your take on his inaction? Because Yoda sat back. Like, he let Luke Skywalker try to raise the X-Wing out of the swamp on whatever... What was the name of the planet?
Dagobah.
Yeah. So, but his inaction, like, there's a duality in that. So what's your take on Yoda's inaction? Because Yoda was inactive, yet his inactivity... Or not even inactivity. His... Are we talking about being inactive physically? Because Yoda was inactive physically a lot, but he also didn't activate himself physically because he had to reflect and find out what was going on from the dark and the light. Because Yoda did, after all. I think he knew the dark side, right?
Yeah, he was, especially towards the end of the Clone Wars, he went on a individual journey himself, in which he kind of found out, he kind of had a bigger visualization of the Force, and it kind of opened his eyes into how he views it and how he reflects upon the future, the past, and the present. So I can definitely agree with that. Yeah.
But as far as like his inactivity, do you feel like it was a good thing, or was it like, what was it? Was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? Because he had to face the Sith, man, the Sith Lord. What did they call the guy in episode 6, which was the newer version?
Emperor.
Yeah, the Emperor.
Palpatine,
Darth Sidious. Oh man, and that was an epic battle. That was epic. And it's a metaphor. I'm not gonna take it. Like they're throwing Senate seats, like galactic Senate seats at each other and stuff like that. But nonetheless, it's a metaphor for the power that the mind has. And I sense that Yoda kind of, man, he knew the dark side. That's why he told Obi-Wan, don't look. Didn't he? Didn't he tell Obi-Wan, like, don't look, because what you're going to find is not, it's going to be atrocious.
Are you
You're
talking about
and
Luke when he went into
Anakin
that?
murdering Padawans, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. When he went to look in the security footage to see what had happened,
Yeah,
Yoda warned him that
and Yoda told him
only pain he will find.
only pain. Now that's a metaphor for the truth. Only the truth you will find, and you have to have that. You have to recognize your darkness, our darkness, or the darkness of the universe, or whatever. Because there's light matter and dark matter. That's what we've discovered so far. They're trying to replicate it here on Earth, but to this day, they're trying to replicate it on Earth. As humans, as scientists, that's what they're trying to do. It's really kind of strange. But yeah, so as far as Yoda, he recognized the dark side, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah, he towards the end of the Clone Wars, he realized that at that point it was too late for them to kind of correct course because I think before the events of Episode 3 happened, he kind of saw what was going to happen. He saw the downfall of the Jedi. He saw the the end of one era and the beginning of a new era with the Empire. And but by at that point, when he had that revelation, it was too late to kind of change things. So I believe there was a quote he said where he said he was asked whether they're making the right decision, and he said, "No longer on the right path we are, but this is the only path. It's not the right path. It's the
it's
only
the
path
only
we can take."
path. Yes, sir.
So he kind of
Wow.
just, at that point, he accepted the fate that was coming to him because of the inaction, the hypocrisy that the Jedi had been
Wow.
falling under all that time, and that led to what you saw in the movies.
Yeah. Man, that's good. That is that. Hey, I'm just gonna say, guys, ladies, that is the best insight and intellect you will ever get from the psychology of Jungian, from the insight of George Lucas and what he's thinking during these movies. Just a piece too, but right, man, it's there are books, there are things that people don't they don't realize, they don't recognize, right?
Yeah, the show that they have based on the Clone Wars, that especially like later on, that really delves into the aspect of the war. Like at first, the show portrays it as like a black and white conflict, but the more you get into it, the more you see how the Republic becomes a more militarized, more imperialistic kind of operation. You see how the Jedi begin to dwindle in their wisdom and their logic, and how things just kind of fall apart at the seams. And the benefit of it being a show, it really progresses over time, and you get to see that
Their
aspect.
dwindling of wisdom progresses. That's,
Yep.
so when you think of progression, you think of like progress. Yet a dwindling of wisdom is not progression; it's rather regression, right?
Yeah, they essentially regress until the point that it leads to their eventual demise, and all but a few are left alive to kind of scatter and run away in fear and go in hiding.
And in their fear, possibly, this is relating to human beings, so possibly in fear that we have to kind of go away and kind of rekindle that, like that fire of light, that fire of just not even humanity, just universality, that which exists in the universe is within us. So maybe they, this is of course just speculation, if I may, but they had to hide away and kind of reconsider themselves, right?
Yeah, there's a quote. Actually, they don't say it in the movie. This was later. This was like later stuff that came as like extra to the movie. But how the Jedi, when they were all wiped out during the Order 66,
Yes.
Obi-Wan and Yoda went to the temple.
Yeah.
To kind of, because there's a message encoded there that told everyone to come back, and it's basically like a trap.
Mm-hmm.
So if any Jedi did return to the temple, they would be killed.
Yeah.
There was a message when Obi-Wan and Yoda got there. They recoded the message, and it said, Obi-Wan said, "This is Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. I regret to report that both our Jedi Order and the Republic have fallen, with a dark shadow of the Empire rising to take our place. This message is a warning and a reminder for any surviving Jedi. Trust in the Force. Do not return to the temple. That time has passed, and our future is uncertain. We will each be challenged. Our trust, our faith, our friendships. But we must persevere, and in time, a new hope will emerge. May the Force be with you always."
And who sent that message?
That was Obi-Wan. He said that to any of the surviving Jedi who didn't get killed.
Man, that's some insight. That's incredible. Now, so does it mean that Palpatine, Senator Palpatine, whatever you call him, dark, what do we call him?
Darth Sidious.
He's the Darth Sidious. And does that mean he's the enemy?
He's
good.
the, and I guess I think George Lucas has made this connotation too, but he tries to resemble him as the devil, because essentially he pulls the greatest thing that the Jedi had, which was Anakin. He pulls them from the light down to the depths of hell, into the dark side, and basically turns them against their own. And he gets everything that he wants. He gets the power. He gets the Republic. He gets to turn of the Empire. He's I believe he's seen as pretty much the devil in that sense. He pulls the brightest spot into the darkest, and just turns everything on its head and gains everything that he ever desires. I don't think he's a redeemable person. But he does take advantage of, because he could have been stopped. There were numerous occasions where things could have turned around, but because of the Jedi's complacency and their arrogance and believing that the Sith could have never returned after being extinct for millennia, they believe that, it'll just be like how it was 1,000 years ago when we took care of them the first time, and that arrogance led to their downfall.
Interesting.
The Jedi preach patience and reflectiveness, yet when the time came and they found out that he was the Sith Lord they had been looking for, you can see that in Revenge of the Sith. Mace Windu and all those Jedi Masters, they rush immediately to his office to confront him, and they immediately draw out their lightsabers. They don't even think. They don't plan an attack. They aren't patient. They immediately rush in. They go, again, another example of the hypocrisy. They go against everything that they supposedly preach.
Yes. Yeah. They're against their virtues, the spiritual virtues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Patience is a virtue. They went against that. They went against a bunch of stuff. And they also, like you said, man, they indulged in politics. They embedded themselves, right? Did they or did they not? Like, I don't want to be wrong here.
Yeah, they were heavily involved in the politics of the war and the galaxy as a whole. So, that kind of became the public perception at that point, is that, the Jedi are, they say they're these peacekeepers, yet they're these extremist group of religion that aligns themselves with a certain side of politics and is fighting actively in the war on the front lines.
Yeah.
They kind of, over the time of the war, the public perception shifts, and that's why by the time they're all wiped out, Palpatine is easily able to convince the entire galaxy that they were these traitors who are trying to overthrow his rule. And he basically says they try to, he's all scarred and deformed, and he says they try to take my life. These are all traitors of the Republic, and we're all going to hunt them down. And everyone basically claps and cheers.
All right, now in that, there's an energy that goes into that. So what the Palpatine did, he actually took the energy and he used it. He used judo. If you're familiar, you're a Taekwondo guy, yeah.
Kung Fu.
Kung Fu. But you understand the energy, like the momentum and things like that, right? All right, so he used momentum in a sense, and persuaded people through energy and momentum, and that's something that I try to talk to people about a lot. About, hey man, there are energy systems at play here, and what do they talk about? The force. What's force? Well, there's energy involved in force. Whether it's dark or light, whatever the case, there is energy involved in it, and people can kind of try to manipulate the energy force that's going on around in our personal lives or whatever. But man, I feel like Palpatine kind of used that. He used judo. He used judo on the Jedi. I think he did. Did he not?
Yeah, he basically, over that entire time span, he is slowly building up all this political power, all this influence. And when the time comes, and this was his plan. He planned this out all from the beginning. It was a long, drawn-out plan, but it worked out. And he basically took all of this momentum that he had throughout the war and all these things that he's done throughout the war, and he basically turned that all against the Jedi and turned them into the enemy. And that was his last opposition, because he'd gotten rid of all of his political rivals, because he had basically turned the Republic into an empire, him becoming the Emperor. So the last thing that could oppose them was the Jedi, so he basically just turned everything on them.
Man. And he did.
And he twisted the mind of, the person they believed the chosen one was. That was their Jesus in a sense. Their savior, one who could bring balance.
Yeah. Their religion.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? That's good stuff. That's good stuff. That is the best insight I've ever heard. That is the insight from those who know what's going on and understand the power of the Force. These guys are crazy, man. These guys were crazy. George Lucas, he knew what he was talking about, yeah? So, what other, is there anything else on your mind that, like anything else that you want to get out there?
One of the more, I guess, one of the broader aspects of the Jedi at that time was their over the years, their beliefs kind of warped. Originally, the Jedi believed in all aspects of the Force, both light and dark, and they believed that there was a middle ground in which there could be balance achieved. An
equilibrium, if you will.
Yeah.
All right.
But over the time of the prequel movies and the Clone Wars, they that mentality kind of shifted to there's only light and there's only dark, and everything that dark does is inherently evil, and so we must eliminate that evil so that only light will remain. And Palpatine kind of uses that to his advantage, because he keeps what the old Jedi had, which was there is a dark and a light, and you should embrace both views, not just one holy vision.
Okay. Can I stop you there for a second? I don't mean to, man. You're the man, dude. You're doing great.
You're good.
All right. So when you recognize, when you're a guy, just a person, and you recognize, man, you can't have light or darkness without the light, and light without darkness, man. Right? Mm-hmm. You have to acknowledge both. So when did you? All right. So my question is, at what point, if I were to read a book, Star Wars book or whatever, when do they recognize that there can't be one without the other? You said the old Jedi.
Yeah, that would be before the prequels. So that would be the Old Republic stuff, and that's stuff in books and comics and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Where they had that belief, and then obviously during the time of the prequels is when they believed that we are the good guys, we're the light side, and if there is the dark side or the evil side, we must eliminate it and get rid of it so that only light will remain.
All right, now, when you say comics and stuff like that, now were all those comics written by George Lucas or some other entity?
Uh, I don't believe they were. They were written by other people
Okay.
who understood the source material, but I believe
Mhm.
they were all greenlit by George Lucas when he was
Because he'll
when he
sue
still
their ass.
owns.
He
Yeah,
would.
when he owned Star Wars at that time, he did allow people to. He did hire people, and people wrote things, and he
Okay.
greenlit them.
Okay. Man.
That's the expanded universe stuff. That's stuff outside of the mainline movies that he
Yeah.
allowed to be written to kind of like expand the universe more.
Yeah, and I actually choose, like, I would like to learn more about it, and actually, like, I talk with you, but I also talk with my brother, and he, man, he is not an enthusiast. He is an historian of Star Wars as well. He's very well scripted. But yeah, man, my brother would agree, I think, wholeheartedly with what you say, man, because he and I have this conversation sometimes. But he is involved deeply into the Star Wars realm, the universal realm. And it's basically the Jungian model of the unconscious of our minds as human beings. Just to put it simply, there we have to dive into our minds of what's real and what's good and what's bad, but not reject that which is bad, because the Jedi kind of did that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they reject what's bad in some senses. And when you do that, you kind of lose energy for you lose the force a little bit, and you lose momentum, which is force in physics sense. That's why I like to use concepts and various things that we do in life. Like everybody says, hey, you go to college, you go do this, you go do that. Why do I need to know that? Well, there are conceptual reasons why. It's not like a literal reason. Like you're not gonna have to like divide. You're not gonna have to like come up with different equations to like perceive certain statistics and analysis of a human study or something like that. Yet you do need to know these concepts, man, to apply to your everyday life. And it's fundamental. It's universal. That's what Yoda understood, in my opinion. I believe he understood the dark side and the light side. That's what put Yoda above everybody else. And I believe Mace Windu did too. But I believe he got complacent in a way.
Yeah, he became kind of the alongside Yoda. Those two kind of were the head honchos, I guess. Even though it was a council of people, they were the people. They were the two that people would look to. And Mace Windu was kind of the more aggressive type in the sense that he was probably the most emblematic of the Jedi at that time. That he was the most hypocritical. He was the most complacent. He was the most dogmatic in the view sense.
Now Mace Windu, for reference, he was Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, gotcha. Because I read about him in books, and it's a completely different character in the books in a sense. Like the movies never do justice to the true story, yet they just they make it out there on the big screen, and so you get a general sense. But right or
Yeah, it's much more condensed in the movies. They definitely flesh out his beliefs and his character more in the outside material in books, comics, and the TV show.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Because you could say he was complacent in many ways, but he was also very inquisitive of young Anakin, right?
Yeah, he didn't want him to be trained.
Did he have a point?
I think it was for multiple reasons. They believed at the time that they believed that Anakin's future at that time, and I believe they still did up until they all met their demise. They believed that his future was going to lead towards destruction. They sensed that his future would bring upon a lot of death and chaos, and they were afraid of that. So their fear basically influenced, when they're supposed to be rational thinkers, they let fear take over their thinking. And they said that, we're not going to train him because we think we know, we believe that this is going to happen, and he's going to bring nothing but destruction.
But didn't he, with all that, didn't he bring balance?
He did. Okay. He did bring balance in the end.
So was Mace Windu right? In all honesty, was he right?
He didn't believe in Anakin. That was the problem. He didn't believe that he could bring balance, even though everything was pointing towards him being chosen one and him bringing balance. He didn't want him trained to begin with. He didn't trust him. He believed that, I think in Revenge of the Sith as well, when Anakin reveals to him that Chancellor Palpatine was the Sith Lord, he says Anakin wants to go with him to kind of confront and face the Chancellor, but Mace Windu orders him to stay at the temple and wait until they get back. And then at that point he goes, if what you have told me is true, you will have gained my trust. So even then, he didn't fully trust Anakin to that point. He didn't, because he had sensed much confusion in him about his future. And
he has to have confusion in himself. If he's a Jedi, you're not supposed to have that. You're supposed to have some vision.
Yeah.
He did not.
That's kind of that hypocritical stuff. He believed that everything he was sensing was what was going to happen, what was the truth. So he used that kind of misguided vision and he let it influence his decisions.
Wow.
And the way he viewed Anakin.
Yeah, man. True. Real. That's, wow. Yes, indeed. That's what I sensed too. That's what I felt too. That's what I observed. But, dude, we've been going for 34 minutes. And, dude, we're talking about the dark archetypes of unconsciousness of human beings. And we're talking about a movie to interpret it. And I have a young man who is just a true champion of understanding that which we're talking about. And so, man, that is impressive, Carter Teed. I knew it. If I call my brother would give me some really good stuff too, and he would impress me too, because my brother, he's different. He's not you. Older guy, so on and so forth. Different type of person, whatever the case. But man, he would spit some knowledge to me about like the galaxy and the universe and Star Wars and all this stuff, because he follows the Star Wars, like the what do you call the animation thing?
What do you mean? Like the show?
There's some show on like Netflix or something.
On Disney Plus, there's the Clone Wars show. That's
the Clone Wars.
About.
So my brother follows that greatly, and so like he'll spit knowledge to me like you do, and I'm like, damn, man. I rely on the movies that I watched. I did read some books about Star Wars. I read some books about Star Wars, and I'm like, this is not. And I read a lot about Mace Windu. I did not know. Like, I do not know that much about Mace Windu. I think Mace Windu is a critical character in the Star Wars series. It's not, I think we know that. But he's very charismatic. He also is dedicated to his beliefs. And unfortunately, I think in this world, man, it ain't about believing. It's about knowing. You're supposed to know where the laser is going to hit you, so you can take your what do you call it, your lightsaber, and like deflect it and all that stuff. That's what Jedi are supposed to do. It's not about believing. It's about knowing. And I believe, or I know that Mace Windu had flaws, but he was such an important character in Star Wars. And I'm not talking about Star Wars for Star Wars purposes, man. This is about real life, man. It's about like understanding who humans are, how we feel, what we do, what we believe or know in ourselves and these type of things, right? Like, how do you feel about that? Like, do you, like, from your perspective, does Star Wars kind of reflect human consciousness?
Yeah, I believe the biggest thing to Star Wars is its relatableness to our own world, even though it takes place in a galaxy a long time ago, far away. There's pretty much every aspect of it is something that can be translated into our world, whether that be the personal things, the spiritual things, the conflicts, the politics, the current world politics of things. All of it has messages and meanings behind it all that is directly reflective of modern times.
And how old are you, sir?
I am 21 years old.
21 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, 21 years old. And this person is reflecting the way we should. The way we should. Man, sir, thank you for joining me. Thank you very much for your insight. Your insight is inspirational to me. I'm an old man. I've got gray hair going on in my beard and all that stuff. Now, I still run very fast and I still do all kinds of stuff and I'm still active and I'm about to go outside and get my workout on and all that stuff. But, man, you are inspirational and your insight and wisdom is truly appreciated. And thank you for taking time to answer some questions, man.